Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're diving into one of the most important foundations of Philippine political development, the American colonial period in the Philippines in 1898 to 1946. But this is not just history. This is about how war became governance, how governance became education, and how education became the foundation of a modern state, and even today's Philippines' foreign policy behavior. So if you are preparing for the FSO exam, this is not just memory work. This is strategic understanding of state formation. Let's begin. We begin in December 10, 1898, with the Treaty of Paris. After the Spanish-American War, Spain ceded three major territories to the United States: the Philippines, Guam, Puerto Rico. In exchange, the US paid $20 million. This single treaty changed Philippine history forever. The key idea: the Philippines was transferred without Filipino consent, despite the earlier Declaration of Independence in 1898 under Emilio Aguinaldo. This creates the first major diplomatic tension, a colonial transfer that ignores self-determination. This is where the modern concept of international legitimacy versus sovereignty begins to appear in Philippine history. Just months after the treaty, tensions exploded. On February 4, 1899, the Philippine-American War began. Key Filipino figure: Emilio Aguinaldo, President of the Philippine Republic. Key American military leaders: General Arthur MacArthur and General Elwell Otis. The war evolved into guerrilla warfare after Filipinos lost conventional battles. Guerrilla warfare means hit-and-run tactics, small, mobile resistance units, and localized command structures. This prolonged the war and made it difficult for American forces to fully control the islands. Benevolent assimilation, 1898. President William McKinley declared the policy of benevolent assimilation. The idea was the US would civilize, educate, and uplift Filipinos. But in reality, it functioned as a justification for occupation and moral framing of colonial control. This is very important in diplomatic studies because it shows how language can legitimize power. The US also implemented concentration camps where civilians were relocated to cut support for the guerrillas. The effect? Food shortages, disease outbreaks, and civilian suffering. This is an early example of population control as a counterinsurgency strategy. In 1901, the US shifted from military rule to civil governance, led by William Howard Taft. This marked a strategic transformation from conquest to administration. One of the most influential reforms was education. The key developments are the arrival of the Thomasites, or the American teachers, the establishment of the public school system, and English was introduced as the medium of instruction. Why this matters: education became a tool for cultural integration, administrative efficiency, and formation of Filipino middle class. In modern diplomatic terms, this is soft power institutionalization. In 1907, the Philippine Assembly was created. This was the first elected legislative body. Key figures: Sergio Josmeña as the Speaker and Manuel L. Quezon as the Majority Leader. How the political foundation evolved: there's gradual Filipino participation in governance. There's training in legislative systems, and there's an introduction of electoral politics. This is important because it trained Filipino elites in Western democratic institutions long before independence. Now, we have to move to a major turning point: the Jones Law in 1916, passed by the US Congress. The key provisions: it created a fully elected Philippine Senate and House. It promised eventual Philippine independence, and it expanded civil liberties. Why it matters: this is the first formal legal promise of independence. But it is important to note that independence was promised, not given. This creates a long-term diplomatic pattern, conditional sovereignty under external oversight. In 1935, the Commonwealth government was established. The key leader is Manuel L. Quezon as the president. The structure: Filipinos controlled internal governance, US controlled foreign affairs, and military defense. This is a classic example of semi-sovereign statehood, a transitional political system designed to prepare independence. On July 4, 1946, the Philippines gained full independence. This ended nearly 48 years of American colonial influence and transitioned Philippines into full sovereign statehood. Let's consolidate the key diplomatic political concepts. During the war phase, we have the Treaty of Paris in 1898, the Philippine-American War from 1899 to 1902, guerrilla warfare, benevolent assimilation, and reconcentration policy. In terms of governance phase, we have the military government turned into civil government in 1901. We have the William Howard Taft administration, homicides and public education, English language institutionalization. Now for the political development. We have the Philippine Assembly in 1907, the Jones Law in 1916, the bicameral legislature, and the promise of independence. Let's discuss about the transition to statehood. The Commonwealth was established in 1935. We have Manuel L. Quezon as the leader, and US control of defense and foreign affairs. Now, the final stage, independence in 1946. Let's connect this to modern diplomacy. The American period shaped three major realities. First, the Philippine foreign policy behavior. The Philippines inherited a pro-Western institutional framework with strong ties to the United States and reliance on treaty alliances, for example, defense agreements. And this is why Philippines today balances between the sovereignty assertion and the alliance dependence. Number two, soft power and education diplomacy. The US established English education as a tool of governance. Today, this results in strong English proficiency, global labor mobility, and integration into international institutions. Number three, international law and sovereignty debates. The Treaty of Paris raises enduring questions. Can sovereignty be transferred without consent? What is the legitimacy of colonial treaties? These debates influence the UN principles of self-determination, the modern decolonization frameworks, and foreign policy ethics. So we'll look at the American period, and we are not just studying history. We are studying how states are built, how power is justified, and how institutions shape diplomacy for generations. From war, education, governance, to independence, the Philippines became a case study in managed transition to sovereignty. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next deep dive. As we deep dive the integration and cause and effect mapping in the context of Philippine history, especially during the American colonial period.